Come correct or don't come at all.
This is the Hartzog Hustle Podcast.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And we're talking about the hustle, strategy, and mindset you need to win in the areas of your finance, your purpose, and your future.
Know what I'm saying?
If you have heart and you want to learn how to activate the power of your hustle, then this is the podcast for you, baby. For you, baby.
Congratulations.
And now, your hosts, Anthony and Janilka Hartzog.
This is how it should be done.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Hartzog Hustle Podcast. My name is Anthony, and you are Mrs. Hartzog Hustle. Janilka, what up?
Yes, hello. I'm like, you gonna forget my name?
I ain't forget your name. Come on.
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in again. Take a stop to leave us a rating, pause it. Well, you can actually, if you're listening on an iPhone, you can listen and do it at the same time.
Definitely
leave us a rating, please. You can leave a 5-star rating for every single episode. I don't think people know that. Write a comment. Make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube.
I don't think people understand the importance of those reviews too, because
people
they help us get exposed to a larger audience.
Yeah, that's how they decide how to
broadcast it.
Ads, or it's like broadcasting.
Yeah, broadcast it
more. Yeah.
And also make sure you subscribe to the episode too. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you want to hit the little check box at the very top.
Top right.
But while we're here, we're going to do a review of the week. I enjoy doing this because y'all been showing love on the reviews, so I want to make sure that we show you guys love back. So this is from Chris Victorious, I believe. Motivating and inspiring. Been following the Hartzogs for a little bit now, and glad they finally dropped this podcast that's super relatable and enjoyable. Hearing about their journey is encouraging for those aspiring to pay off debt, gain financial freedom, and pursue entrepreneurship. A must listen on my commute. Appreciate you, Chris Victorious. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, to listen to us in the morning at that.
Yeah, I don't know. I be tired in the morning, but listen to my voice in the morning.
Podcast.
I listen to podcasts in the morning.
Yeah. Anyway, so what's new? What's happening?
What is new? What is not new? So, what are we talking about today? I don't even know.
Wow. Are you prepared? We're talking about real estate.
We're talking about real estate. So we are talking about our journey to our real estate journey, because we acquired our first rental property over a year ago, and people were like, "Oh, what's the update on it? How was it?"
Yeah, what was that? When did we get it? August 2020.
August 2020.
Yeah.
And people have been asking about the updates. We posted on Instagram as well. If you guys don't follow us on Instagram, that is
in the show notes, but the Hartzog.
The Hartzog, we'll make sure that's posted as well. But people have been asking for updates on this. We want to give you the full story of how we got
into it, why we got into it, how we're still here, things that are happening with it. Okay. So,
and this episode is sponsored by cleaningbusinessuniversity.com. If you're interested in starting and scaling a 6-figure cleaning business without cleaning houses, make sure you tap in.
Yes. So real estate, when did we start even thinking or talking about real estate? I mean, before, if you, maybe this is your first episode, we're originally from Brooklyn, New York, and then we moved to Dallas in 2016. So before coming to Dallas, have you ever thought about real estate?
Nah, I think only Donald Trump, people like that, multi-millionaires, billionaires own real estate.
That's how you thought of it.
And my first experience of living, because real estate, you think about real estate, you think about living in a house. I didn't even know you could own a building, like a commercial building, when I found out that you could own a building like a hotel or even anything. Like a complex, an apartment complex. I didn't know regular people own that stuff until recently. So my experience was very minimal, I'll say.
Okay.
Growing up.
Did you think of at least owning real estate like your own, like your primary one? Did you think of getting a house while living in New York, or not at all?
No, definitely not living in New York.
No?
Because I didn't live in a house my whole life. I only lived in apartments. So
yeah, I know, but the if you will, American dream is you get married, you have a dog, you have a house with the white picket fence.
I don't think I was ever thought about getting a house when I realized how much rent was in New York. So I was like, I couldn't imagine how much owning a house would be.
Similar or less, it really depends. New York is pricey. But yeah, for me, I never thought about real estate in regards to having investment properties, but I did think of owning a home in Long Island, New Jersey, or Connecticut. Not in the city.
Staten Island?
No.
Not even Staten?
I'm not thinking about Staten Island. Who's thinking about Staten Island?
Wow. Shout out to Staten Island. We might have some Staten Island listeners.
But no one's thinking of moving there. Let's be real.
Wait, before we sorry to cut you off. Shout out to the Bronx, because they are the demographic of the Bronx listeners is a lot higher than a lot of other demographics of listeners that we have on the podcast.
Was it the podcast or was it following on Hartrimony?
It was both.
It was a podcast.
It was a podcast. Shout out to BX. BX stand up.
Shout out to the Bronx. Okay. But not Staten Island. But so yeah, that's why I thought about like owning a home. Did I think about like how much it's gonna cost, what it really entails, blah blah? No. Because I've never lived in a home either. You've actually lived in a home growing up though.
Yeah, I lived in a 3-story brownstone in Bed-Stuy.
Right, which now is probably $3 million. But back then it wasn't. Yeah. Back then it was Biggie's Bed-Stuy.
Yeah, when I was running through, right before we left Brooklyn, I was running through the neighborhood. I used to run past that. I used to run past that brownstone. And one day I said, "Let me just."
Was it on Hancock?
It was on Hancock. So I was like, "Let me just." Why are you telling people where I used to live at?
Where you used to live 25 years ago? Like, what are they gonna find?
I want them to find the brownstone. You never know. So it's a different color than what it was then. So I was running past it and I was doing like a 6-mile loop in Brooklyn. I ran back through it and I said, let me just Google what the price market would pay for this right now. Or what was that last price that it sold for? Mm-hmm. And it was like maybe like 1.2 million or something like that. And then mind you, this is years before. They don't tell you what it sells for now because you can't find out what the value is. But it told you what that property sold for a couple years before you look it up.
Right. But every time, let's be clear, he says when he was running a few years ago, if we in Brooklyn, we pass him by the street, every time he points out that he used to live there.
Yeah, so. It's like a tour. It's a biggest house on the block.
Okay. But anyway, so you used to live in a home. But for me, I've never lived in a house prior to living in our new home now, technically. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I had family members that owned homes, but I never lived in it. But so what I thought about whenever I did own a house, mind you, I didn't know who I was owning it with because I don't know that you can afford a house by yourself in New York. But New Jersey, Connecticut, and Long Island was it because I knew New York City was too expensive and then space. That's what I thought about. Like you just like on top of each other. If you have a home in the city being the 5 boroughs of New York.
Yeah.
So that was my thought of it. I've never thought about it in investment properties because I never thought about investing. I mean, really, prior to our journey of debt payoff and things like that, investing was not. It was just like saving, which is different from investing.
They should teach investment real estate in high school. I feel.
Or just investments, maybe in general, like in different ways. No,
I feel like their stuff should be taught in high school. There's no reason why we learn this stuff as an adult when you're 20, 25. I mean, now people are learning it at 20, 25 because of social media.
Yeah.
And podcasts but they don't teach us the stuff that you need.
People learn it earlier if their family is involved with it earlier.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
So when I was in Albany, we lived in a house. We called it the House of 6. And it was 6 of us upstairs and six people downstairs.
Oh, was it 6 people downstairs?
6 people downstairs.
The house was huge then.
The house was huge. It wasn't 12 bedrooms, but some people shared bedrooms downstairs or whatever. So I found out that one of the kids in the bottom floor, his parents owned the building.
Okay.
They owned the house.
Yeah.
So it's like now you got this term called house hacking where people say, all right, you get a house, you own it, you live in it, and you rent it out so that you can supplement your income. Mm-hmm. He was doing that. He probably had no idea what he was doing. His parents
just put him in.
They just put him in. We're buying you a house in Albany. You're gonna live in it, and we're gonna rent it out. And you might collect. I don't even know if he collected rent or if he had somebody else collect rent.
How much y'all was paying?
It was like a couple hundred. It was like $300
each person. $300. 6 of you guys, so $1,800 upstairs.
So about $3,600. Mind you, that mortgage was probably trash. That mortgage was probably like $2,000.
Yeah, it was not like it was a brand new.
But I'm saying when you hear these conversations about owning real estate, it's normally wealthy people doing it. Mm-hmm. So it's like when we have now younger people are doing it. It's like, all right, I'm going to college. Like this was one thing. When we have kids, is like I would tell my kid, all right, you're going away to college. If you want to live off campus, let's see if we could get you a house off campus, and you kind of do the same thing because that's exactly what he did. Mm-hmm. His parents just happened to force him to do it.
Yeah, I mean that's what Jai did. That's what my aunt did with my cousin in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Technically, after a while, I mean she was living out, but after a while she got her townhome that was still kind of close and. She rented out the other room to her friends.
And that area is booming.
And the area is booming. So, yes, prior to debt payoff, prior to where we are now, real estate was not a thing. I thought about it in more of just a primary home.
Yeah, living in a house.
Which is real estate, but just living in our home, and then that's it. Because I remember we used to talk with our financial advisors of how much do we want to spend on this home, things like that. And then you like with everything, when would you say, I think listening to podcasts probably, is when you started to say like, okay, I think we need to get into investment properties of real estate?
So getting into investment properties or real estate, I think the conversation started happening, when was it? So paying off the debt, obviously, raising our income. And still at that point, I never knew there was an entry point that you could own properties. Even when we was doing this, it was like, all right, I hear other people doing it. I would love to do it, but I didn't see an entry point being able to do it ourselves. No matter how much money we had, I just couldn't figure it out. I was like, I don't know what we need to do. So I listen to, you listen to real estate podcasts, and everybody makes it seem so easy. Oh, you do an FHA, you do a house hack, you do this, you do that. And then we tried to do the house hack thing, remember?
When?
We were thinking about getting a duplex in Dallas.
We had looked at one in, what was it, Oak Lawn or something?
We looked at a few duplexes. We looked at a multi. We looked at multi. So
okay, yeah.
Let me just like break it down. So house hacking is when you live in one unit and rent out the other units, whether it's bedrooms or whether it's an outhouse or whether it's different units in the apartment. So when we were first looking at a house or thinking about a house, we were trying to house hack. I was thinking about trying to do that.
Yeah, but all the houses we look at wasn't up to my standard.
What is your standards? That was the issue.
That was the issue.
It wasn't the houses. It was you.
Well, I mean, that's on them. I don't know what to tell them. But that was the real reason why we never because I couldn't wrap my mind around this being my first home. That was the thing. Like, we're house hacking, and people that house hack, they don't really care. I mean, I don't know if they don't really care, but it's not like, oh, this is my first home, so it has to be the best thing out. And so that was my thing. Like, I'd rather just stay in our apartment with the amenities. I don't want to like stay here. And so that's the reason that we never really pursued it and went for it. But we did, I remember seeing some places. We did look at places. Then we found one where we actually was going to, not bid on, but put an offer in. And we did a inspection. And the inspection guy was like, run from there.
Yeah.
He was like, I shouldn't be telling you this, but the only reason I was okay with it because the house, it was like a single family, and then it had a separate thing in the back.
Yeah, an additional dwelling unit.
Additional dwelling.
It was an apartment above a garage.
Yeah, and they rented out the bottom and top.
Yep.
So it was like, oh, this could be real good potential. It was in a good area, a historic area or something. Yep. Historic neighborhood in Dallas, closer to the city, and so we were like, I was open to it because it was just completely separate.
Because the house is decent, and they didn't have to. They didn't
have to touch us. They would go through the garage, and that's it. Go about their business.
Go out the yard to leave.
Yeah, and the inspection guy had said, yeah, this is for our first property for someone that is just doing this. I would not advise. Yeah, that's kind of why we didn't move forward with that. And then after that, we kind of left it alone for a long time.
Yeah,
you would say
we looked at a 4-unit property, 4 different units, but the bedrooms were extremely tiny, and it wasn't having it. Yeah, you can't go from a 1,200-1,300 square foot apartment
with the amenities,
with high end appliances, high end that down to I think the apartments itself was like 900, maybe 800 square feet. And then most people are doing this only for a year, though. They're like, all right, let's get it for a year. Let's sacrifice.
That's what Hugh kept saying. He kept saying, like,
because a year passes by fast.
Yeah, but it's just.
So you're living at a place for a year, and then people say a year because you can use a low interest loan like a FHA, a housing authority loan, and you can now rent it out. So he's like, I live in for a year. I lived in here. Now I could move and have somebody else move in, and then have that, still keep that unit, refinance out of it and all of that stuff.
Right. And then
But you wasn't with it, though. You was like, nah.
I wasn't with it. I'm like, I don't
And I was kind of not with it either. It was like,
I'm like, I don't want to deal with renters. I don't want to deal with, because I'm like referring back to our cleaning business. And
I don't want to deal with people.
I don't want to deal with people. That cleaning business has really shown. Obviously, I know how people are, but you get a bigger pool of people when you're servicing more people. And
very quickly you do.
Very quickly. And it's like, I was like, I just don't want to deal with that.
Because you're servicing 30, 40, 50 new people every single week.
Yeah.
People and that it never come across you, people who's not even in your circle.
Yeah. And then you always, like I always say, a lot of things in life, you just hear the negative of it. Like, oh, well, people don't be paying.
Yep.
And what you going to do when they don't pay? And it's like, so those are the questions I'm throwing at him. Like, do you really want to deal with that? Blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So that was the negative of it. But then 2020 came around, and I think at that time, we had paid off our debt December 2018. All of 2019, I guess we were just saving. I mean, we'd had our money, 401ks and stocks, okay, but not, whatever. But it became, I think as you continue to listen to the podcast, like, you're just sitting on the money, right? And the money is not growing, having it in a savings account, you're growing 0.3% versus whatever percent. Like, it needs to be working for you, right? So that conversation started to change in our household of the money working for us and an investment property being one of them. Like, so you kind of showing the numbers of what it could look like.
So at this point now, I'm doing more research because it's good to listen to podcasts or anything. But if you're not really taking action, you're just wasting your time. So like I'm sitting listening to a whole bunch of real estate podcasts. They're telling you how to run their numbers. They're telling you this. So now I'm starting to take the conversation more serious. Like, all right, Janoga's kind of open to this. Let me make sure I know what I'm doing. Let's make sure we do our due diligence so that we don't walk into something that we can't handle. Right. That's something I never want to put us in a position to do. Is like, all right, we get this 10-unit apartment building and we can't handle it. Jesus. I'm just thinking thinking long-term, big vision, but it's like I didn't want to get into something that we couldn't handle. Worst case scenario, can we handle that?
Right. And so you had a bro out here.
Yeah.
Well, no, right before we spoke to him, we were looking at another house that we were going to Airbnb.
Oh, yo, let's talk about that. I forgot
that was a nice house too.
That joint was fire.
Were we moving into that? No, we were Airbnb.
No, we were going to pay $300,000 for this place, and we were going to Airbnb
because they had already had it on Airbnb.
They had it on Airbnb. They showed us the P&Ls, and the numbers looked really good. And this was right before the pandemic.
Had to be during the pandemic. Had to be because we bought it in August 2020. So we met with like your bro and his wife maybe a little before that. So maybe June. So during the pandemic.
No, this couldn't have been during the pandemic. This had to be right before the pandemic. Because I say that because
it didn't take us that long to get a home. So I'm trying to think back to when we started with them. If we got it in August, then we probably met with them in May, June. That's what I'm saying.
So this house had to be May, June. So yeah. So this had to be right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Around there, yeah. I don't know the exact date.
Pandemic. So we looked at a property. It was like $300,000. Fully renovated, fully updated. It was in a decent area.
Yeah, you could live in it, but it had some stuff we had to do. I think electricity.
But it was very livable.
Yes.
And the goal was to Airbnb it, and we did the research. We did the numbers. They gave us their P&Ls. They showed us like access to their Airbnb account.
Mind you, we had said we never want to do Airbnb. But because they had everything in place already, like the cleaner, the numbers, the reviews, all of that, we were willing.
Yeah, so we weren't going to start. It was like kind of like buying a business at that point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're buying a business. You're putting 20% down. So what is 20% of $300,000?
Whatever that is.
Whatever that number was. So we were going to put that down in closing costs and all that other stuff. And the goal was to Airbnb it. And we looked at the numbers and we said, this is pretty decent. But I think our biggest thing was what happens if Airbnb doesn't work? Like, why did not go into that deal?
Because we went and spoke to your bro and his wife, and he said
we were literally going to
too much.
We were literally going to close on that house. Yes. We were literally going to close on that house, and we were like, we knew that there were other routes, but we just didn't know how to do it. Because you hear people saying, don't put 20% down on this, don't do that. So we said, all right, we're not going to do that. So we ended up not closing. We ended up pulling out that contract.
Him and his wife, they own a lot of homes out here in Dallas, or in general, they own a lot of homes, and they do a lot of they get the home, renovate it, and then rent it out.
Yeah, I don't want to put people's business out there either.
No, I'm not saying anybody's name.
Oh, okay.
I just
I mean, people can look it up, so that's not.
And so then they just was like, that doesn't sound like the best deal for you.
Yeah. So we were like, there's other ways to do this. We just didn't know how. So they kind of introduced us into like how to get money, how to get financing for the home and how to renovate it and how to do this and how to do that. So the vision. So we had I had the understanding of like what was possible, but I didn't have the structure around it. So they gave us that structure. So we kind of took it and it was like, all right, well, now we have that structure. Like, can we execute the play?
Right. And that was the thing. That was the thing for me. I've always been like, I don't want to reno it. I don't want to do this. I don't want to, I just want to go in and go. And
but if you got
hearing that. No, I'm just saying they're just hearing that side from them of like, this is what you can do to this property. This is what you can do to that. Made it a bit more like attainable. Like, okay, thanks. Because I need to see that visually. Because I'm not seeing that when I walk into this home. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Certain homes at least. So.
And at that point, we looked at, I don't know how many.
One day we went for like 7-8 homes.
So you looked at more than a dozen properties to kind of get an understanding as to what was possible, what could be done, what couldn't be done, make us feel more comfortable, neighborhoods. And I think a lot of people don't get into real estate because they don't have a people can look all day on Zillow and Realtor, but until you actually get out there and like physically be in properties,
baby is moving a lot. Sorry, this feels weird.
So until you're able to get out there and actually look at these properties, like we went out to Cleveland with some friends, and that was their first time looking at properties. But I've seen properties that bad, and they were like, "Wow, this is like really run down." And I think people. You think about it in the grand scheme of things, like, all right, real estate is fantastic, but when you get in that basement and there's no lights and you got a flashlight,
I ain't going in. You know what I'm thinking is going to pop out. You live in New York City, you know who run that city.
And you're trying to figure out if this is an investment that I'm going to put money into. Until you actually get into it, you really don't know.
No, I agree because I was always walking in like, all right, you guys go first.
Exactly. So you don't really know until you get out there and actually put your feet in that muddy basement.
Yeah. So that was the process. I forgot about that house that we were gonna get. Yeah, we were on our way. We were ready to go.
I think we signed some details on that too.
Yeah,
we ended up pulling out. I forgot why, but
and so then we started looking at homes in 2020, summer 2020, and then we got our first investment property in August 2020.
Yeah,
right, and we renovated it. And it was ready to be rented October 1st.
Yeah, we took that reno. Took what, 4 weeks maybe?
Yeah, between buying it, it's like 2 months, August to September. But I don't think the reno was that long. So yeah, the reno was about 4 weeks.
4 weeks for the reno, and then getting it took a couple weeks. So we were in and out within 2 months.
In and out within 2 months, and we're like, okay, wow, we can do this. We bought it, so there wasn't a mortgage with it. So and then the reno, all that type of stuff. And October 1st came. We were ready to...
Wait, so let's go through the numbers on that.
Okay.
So we bought it for 80?
80, I think.
We put, 20 reno?
We bought it for 80, reno 2022, if you will.
Rounded it to 20.
And the ARV on it was supposed to be about 160.
160.
Right? 160. So we're at about 120 all in. And it's supposed to be 160. ARV means the...
After repair value, it's supposed to be 160.
Because we added a bathroom and a bed, right? And so, cleaned up the area, meaning the grass, make sure everything was up to standards.
And remember, this is still our first property, so we don't really know, like you said, you didn't even want to do a reno, so we went in there and did pretty much essentially everything.
Against what I wanted to do.
Yeah, we did everything you didn't want to do, but we were able to kind of get it done. But because I think
we had help guiding us and letting us know, and you also hear finding contractors are hard and they do horrible work, So because we had that, I think that's what made me feel comfortable. That's what made me feel comfortable.
Definitely.
So we had that. We did that, and October 1st week was move-in day.
Yeah, we had a tenant.
We had a tenant. And we pull up to the house. I remember I was still in the car because I was working on the go, whatever. And
I pull up to the house and the door's open.
You pull up to the house and the door's open.
And then you looking.
And I saw, the thing is, like, I see you walk in and it didn't register. It was kind of like, it takes like 2 seconds. Like, wait, how are you able to walk in without the key?
Yeah.
Right. And that was kind of like, what the hell? And then you're like, by the time you're calling me, I'm like halfway out the car because I'm like, why is the door open?
Yeah.
That was kind of my thought process. And you called, you're like, oh, they broke in here and took the appliances. We're like, what? Mind you.
What's your mind you?
My mind you is we're arriving there to give the key to the tenant. That's my mind you.
And the mind you before that was we just finished renovating that property a day before.
Yeah.
2 days before, maybe. Our contractors finished maybe 24 hours, 48 hours before that. Your first thought is going to be the contractor stole it and all of this. They didn't steal it. We gave them plenty of work. They didn't steal it.
It wasn't the contractor. So
that means somebody was watching us.
Which is always the case. And
They getting upset.
Part of the reason why
I didn't want to do this.
Get into this. But it's a business and you have losses. Which we didn't, and that was the thing. I think the fridge and the oven were good, so we didn't buy a new one, right? They were good, so we didn't have to buy a new one.
Which is a win in itself.
Which was a win. That was like, okay, we got to save in that part. And so we call our mentors like, son, like, this is what happened. They're like, no effing way. We're like, I'm letting you know right now, this is what happened. We're on FaceTime. And he's like, they took the what is it
HVAC.
called? HVAC. We're like, what are you talking? Like,
we
didn't even
mind
notice.
you, we weren't. So I'm on FaceTime with him, and I'm showing him, and I'm just walking around. He's like, "Wait, look at the backyard!" Like, and he's like, "Wait, if that's go into the closet
and check for the copper."
The copper.
I mean, if you're listening, you're probably like, "I don't even know what that is." I had no idea what it is, but it's the line that makes the HVAC connect to the house, right? Would you say?
Yeah, the HVAC connects to the house via the copper.
And the HVAC is what provides the AC and the heat in Dallas. Right? For the central air.
Yeah.
It's the big thing that sits outside of homes. Because some people may not know, because I had no idea.
This thing is a couple 100 pounds. This is not a thing that you just pick up.
Yeah, it's the big thing that sits outside of homes. So, first of all, I'm like, okay, I don't even want to be in here right now. You
actually scare me. We should call our property manager just to make sure we good.
Yeah. So, first I'm like, I don't even want to be in here right now because...
Somebody just broke in.
We don't got no gun on us right now or anything. Somebody just broke. I mean, it's daytime. We're in the day. But like, if somebody just broke in, then this don't feel right. I don't know if they gonna come back. Listen, you from New York,
didn't finish the job.
You thinking? I don't know what you're thinking. Too. We could see that they came through a window. And the fridge, oven, this HVAC machine, and copper is gone. Machine. This thing.
You guys need to understand how big an HVAC unit is.
Some people may know.
How big is an HVAC unit?
How many tons? Maybe is it a ton? Maybe it's not a ton, but it's probably. And you may say, well, what would they do with the copper? So what our mentor explained to us is that they sell that. You can sell that copper and make good money. Obviously, a fridge and oven, you can use it or sell parts, do whatever you want with it.
So this usually weighs about 200 pounds.
Okay.
On the low end, and they can go up to 200 to 300 pounds.
Okay. So you gotta have some machinery to do this, right?
Exactly.
So, and some of you may be like, oh, you should have had cameras. You should have had that. Yes, you live and you learn. It was our first thing. We didn't have it at the time, right? So,
but this is good. I mean, that's good information because this is what we learned while we're doing it.
Yeah, this is our journey. This is our journey. In the midst of that, I'm like, well, I got to call the tenant and tell them that they can't move in.
Mind you, this is all happening within like 30 minutes.
But we're meeting them there to give them the keys. So
we're on the way.
Yeah, we just arrived 20 minutes earlier. We didn't really arrive. Not like we were there 4 hours earlier. In the midst of that, the tenants walk in. And we're like, you know what? I'm going to just have to tell you what's happening right now.
Since they was there.
We just walked in and someone stole the fridge, the oven, and the HVAC system. We understand that's not what you rented it for. We would have to work on getting these things back to you so that you can move in at a later date. They were so eager that they were like, oh, no, it's fine. We're like, well, it's August. It's not scorching, but it can get really hot.
August, July still hot.
August, it can get really hot here. So with the no AC, how are you going to keep your food warm? Like what,
It's like, are you thinking through what the challenges
the challenges are? And they just was like, no, we really like the place. I'm fine. The husband kind of was like, oh, I guess I know what type of time it is.
Yeah, he was ready.
We were like,
he was ready to go.
Whatever that means.
I didn't know what he meant, but I knew what he meant. I know what time we on in this area. It's about to be lit.
I had to put in a police report, but who knew that they don't get there right away? I mean, I don't. Maybe you guys knew, but I guess it's not an emergency. So police is like, yeah, we'll show up. We'll call you in a few hours, type of thing.
Yeah.
They moved in. We were able to do like a rent-a-center for the fridge, which got out there like the next day or day after, and then worked on everything else, getting a real fridge, oven, and getting the HVAC system out there, things like that. We kind of worked on, and that was the beginning of, like I said, this is the first tenant, first rental property. That was the beginning of the journey. Then throughout that journey, we didn't have a property manager, so it was us. And throughout that journey, the tenant, we had like a Google number. It's not like they had our exact number. A few different times had like complained about drainage issues or complained about like things coming up in the tub that was put into the toilet, right? A few times. And so we're like, okay, first time we sent a plumber out. No, first time we sent the person that did the construction of the home. We're like, tenant is complaining about this. Has to be something that you didn't do correctly. Like, can you just check to make sure? And he checks and says everything is good. Just make sure that they're not putting anything into the toilet. Like you can't put any diapers, pads, any of these things into the toilet. We're like, okay, let the tenant know. A few weeks or a month later, they come back complaining again. We're like, okay, we need to get a plumber out there. Plumber's at the roof.
Yeah.
And it's pulling out wipes. And he's like, well, this is why it's clogging up, because wipes. He tells the tenant that, and of course the tenant's like, well, I'm not putting wipes in there. So we're like, okay, well.
Yeah.
But it always remained weird, because I'm like, why would the tenant be putting the wipes in and having an issue of things coming up in their tub, of not being able to flush their toilet, like being inconvenienced and doing the same, like, and doing it at the same time. It just sounded very bizarre. And of course, when we spoke to like mentors to other people, they're like, tenants do stuff.
Tenants are gonna be tenants.
Tenants do things, right? And then another time we had somebody else go out, like it was like 3 different times, because the tenant kept complaining that there was something wrong with this drainage. And we're like, every time they're like, well, we're finding things in here. And the tenant's like, well, it has to be from the previous people because we're not doing it. And we were just kind of like stuck of trying to figure it out, like, why, how is this still happening? Right?
So when you got tenants, you want to be as responsive to them as possible, because if there is an issue, they will find any reason to either try to fix it themselves or not pay you rent. These tenants were on housing, so we didn't have to worry about not getting any rent. So that was a blessing in itself. Every single month we got rent. But the challenge was when we didn't hear from them, we still knew this issue was happening, but we assumed that
it got better.
It got resolved. So on our side, a few lessons that I would say we got from, or at least I got from this, was a tenant being quiet isn't necessarily a good thing. It just means that they either are trying to fix it themselves. It's kind of like a kid in a room. And a kid is quiet in the bedroom, and you're like, yo, what? You could be happy as a parent, like, kid is quiet, or you could think that the kid is doing something that they shouldn't be doing. So you got to think about tenants as children at some point. You gotta stay on them. You got to make sure, you got to kind of micromanage them. So we didn't do an effective job at micromanaging, because when they got quiet, we assumed that things were going well. And actually it wasn't. It was probably getting worse at that time.
Yeah, but we were notified. I mean, I remember you had reached out when we had like the winter storm down here in Dallas. Like, hey, just wanted to make sure you guys are okay, like staying warm. You know, like there's no issues with the home and yourself. Blah, blah.
And remember, this is our first tenant, so we're going above and beyond to make sure that they don't think that we're slumlords or. And another thing we did was we didn't tell them that we was the landlords either.
No, because our mentor store said not to say that.
Yeah, so we didn't tell them that we were the landlords. We told them that we was the property managers for the landlords, people that own the property, and we kind of thought that would have gave them a better feeling as to who we are. Like, we're on your side. We don't we got no skin in the game here. And actuality, it didn't help us at all, because. It was
then I don't remember what else we were reaching out for. I think it was more just checking if there was. I think you had reached out a few times, just like, is the issue still happening? Because we didn't hear from it.
But we didn't hear from them for 2 months.
But then they weren't responding. Even throughout times when we had to get the plumbing out there, like the wife wouldn't respond. So like one time I think we just showed up and the husband was there. He was like, "Oh yeah, you could come in. I didn't know you guys wanted to come in." He's like, "Oh, you guys should reach out to me." And we're like, "Well, you know, this is the person we've been speaking with."
Yeah.
But then when things took a turn was towards the end. So remember, lease started. Was it September, October? The lease started. September, October.
They signed in September.
Oh, okay. So then, yeah, we got the property. August, had a tenant in there. September 15th, September 1st, ready to roll.
Yeah.
And the lease started. It was ending. So we were like, okay, are they gonna stay on? Are they not? And either she would take long to respond, or when she did respond, one response was like,
it was always nasty responses.
At the end, it started to be nasty responses. And, you know, I heard from the neighbors that you guys actually are the one that stole your own stuff. Nobody else around here stole it. That's when I was like, okay, I don't think I'm responding here anymore. Let's get somebody else into. I'm like, how does that make sense that we steal our own things and then have to buy back our own things?
Insurance claim.
Okay.
Payout from the insurance.
Okay.
And we did go through the home warranty. We went through the insurance to kind of get some of that stuff replaced, but we did have to come out of pocket.
Definitely.
To do that. So it didn't make sense for us.
It didn't make sense. And so then it was like, yeah, I know how you guys are.
Unless we stole it.
And then what?
And sold it and it came out of pocket to replace it, which means that we didn't. I don't know. It don't make sense.
Which would have pushed back our tenant moving in.
It didn't make sense.
It just didn't make sense. So it was like, what? And
but that shows you what type of person that you was dealing with.
Right. And so we had to go through the route of like the case manager, and they're telling us, oh, she moved out September 1st. I said, no, she didn't, because she just told me that she's still there and blah, blah, blah. And then you're supposed to do like a walkthrough at the end. She texts like, oh, left the key in the mailbox. I'm gone. I moved everything out. We're like, okay, like you can't just leave the key in the mailbox. Somebody could have seen you leave it in the mailbox. It was just a mess at the end. It just wasn't how it, I mean, it started as a mess, but the rapport and communication with the tenant, it just wasn't the same anymore.
I mean, it was never the best, but we did our part. We did our part. Yeah, we followed up multiple times. We checked in when we needed to, and we learned a valuable lesson.
Mm-hmm. And so then you went to go see the place?
All right. So yeah, tenant moved out. I went out there probably like the same day to go lock the damn doors, number one. Mm-hmm. And number two, to check what we were walking into. Because remember, the plumbing issue was never resolved. We only assumed it was because we sent the plumber out there and we didn't hear back from them.
Right.
I walk into this house. It is an absolute mess. There are holes in the walls.
It wasn't an absolute mess, but it was a mess. I wouldn't say absolute mess. To me seems like I can like spray paint.
There were holes in the walls, multiple holes in the living room. There was probably at least 3-4 huge holes in the wall. Mm-hmm. The floor was off in the hallway, meaning like the sliding on the floor was off. Mm-hmm. The kitchen had a bucket of urine in it.
Mm-hmm. Like a mason jar.
A bucket of urine in it. So that means that I don't know what the hell they were doing in there. The bathroom, the tub itself was flooded, and it had black tar-like items in it. So did the sink, the toilet as well. The bedrooms, the doors were ripped off the bedrooms. Some of the closet doors had holes in them, and the back room was actually fine. So there was no issues there. So we're like, okay, this is a mess. What are we going to do? Well, number one, we had reserves, so we never touched that money from that property. Never,
the whole year.
We never touched the money. So all the money that we had in that account that we got from the tenant, that we got from Section 8 housing, went back to renovate that property. Mm-hmm. That took over $10,000 to do so. It took months of time. So we got it back. We got the property up and running. But we reached out to the tenant. They said, I left it in the condition we got it in, or something like that.
Did they say that?
The tenant said we left it in the condition that we got it in. I will read the exact text if I can find it right.
Because I stopped responding. I stopped even engaging.
What was the
Google Voice?
And we only use Google. I don't have Google Voice. I got to download it again. But she said I left it in the same condition I got it in. And I said we didn't respond at that point. We just said, you know what? God bless. We wish you the best. Now, we could have taken that tenant to small claims to get what is your question, because they wouldn't have given us anything because the tenant didn't have anything. But we could have put a lien on their credit, which means that we could have gotten money back over the course of years for them to pay back. So any check they got, we could have got a little small piece of that check to kind of help us down the line. But we said, you know what? It's not worth the headache. It's not worth the time. Let's just keep it pushing.
So this is when she said, I'm just reading it now.
Oh, you got it?
When she said the key is in the mailbox, and we're like, you can't leave the key there. If someone breaks into the home, things are missed, this will be on you. We have to do a walkthrough. She said, nobody broke in. My husband just left there. Everything is still intact. People have
intact. That was the word.
Intact.
That's intact.
People have lives and never did this. I'm at work. He had to go get my kids. And of course, our neighbors let us know the time y'all tried to say someone broke in. They said they never seen nobody break in. That fridge and AC unit was taken by owners. So he just left and everything is still intact. But you guys will not put nothing on us. We know how you guys get down. So the response was, we wish you the best. If anything is needed, we'll reach out to housing manager. Thank you.
We stopped the conversation. It wasn't worth it at that point. We said, you know what? God will.
That blew me away. I'm like,
God will do what he does. And we left that alone.
Yeah.
We saw what type of tenant we had. Mm-hmm. I mean, from the very beginning, we kind of would have looked at it. We were like, this is kind of sus. But at the end of the day, we was like, it's not worth it. We got the funds. We got the money. Let's just move on with our lives. And that's what we did.
Yep.
They were taking, I think they said they're off the program or something like that. So that was it for them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So what do we do to recover from that? So we got the property renovated.
Mm-hmm. Property managers in place.
And we also put a property manager in place too. Because I know you hear people like, I only got one property. Why would you need a property manager? We feel like if we had a property manager, we would have correctly executed on that tenant's placement. we would have put more due diligence into them staying there. But also before they left, property manager would have to do walkthroughs periodically, whether it's quarterly or every 6 months. It's in the lease that we have to have you do a walkthrough, or the property manager could have taken them to small claims court. They could have worked all of that out. But there was a few things that could have been done with having someone in place. Now, we wanted our time back. That was the biggest thing. We spent a lot of time kind of trying to get the tenant in place, energy and money. We realized that it wasn't worth that trying to fight this tenant over, what they did.
And so they just moved out was September 2021. That text, I think, was September 17th, 2021. By the time we had it fully renovated, because people starting, I don't think it was even done then. I think the renovations actually finished by like middle of November.
Okay, maybe.
Middle of November. And, we've been through now like 3 property managers.
Yeah, 3 property managers.
Because just finding good people
also having your expectations set. So we wanted to make sure that we understood. Like some property managers said that we don't do walkthroughs. Another one said we wanted to make sure that the property was vacant. So we explained what the situation was the last time it was vacant. So we said last time this property was vacant, it was broken into periodically. So we want to make sure that somebody's walking through if possible.
Didn't somebody just take the fridge and oven again? Or a fridge again?
Forgot about that, yeah.
The fridge and oven or just the fridge?
The fridge. Fridge and oven.
Fridge and oven? So they took the fridge and oven again during the between of the...
Speaking of, let me text the property manager we got.
During the between of the client moving out, us renovating and everything, they took a fridge and oven again. So there is no fridge and oven in there again right now. We have told the property manager, like, hey, this is issues that we face, and whenever you get a tenant, then we'll get one in there. Because having it sit on its own hasn't been a good experience for us. So this is our first property, and a lot of learning and money being kind of consumed in this thing. Now, the feeling of the first time of the fridge oven and the second time, 2 separate feelings. However, it's still money loss.
Yeah,
in a business.
Second time it happened was like, wow, they got us again, which means that there are people watching that property.
There's people always watching. If you grow up in the hood, you know that people are always watching.
People are always watching.
So
now I just got pissed off. So I realized we got to replace that. So, but these are some of the things you gotta be prepared to deal with. Like we don't want to just give you guys the horror stories. Like we got income from that property every single month on time for a year
during COVID.
So we didn't have to worry about that. That money was cash flowing. That property was cash flowing every single month without a headache. And then we also got another property after that. So that means that we ain't scared. We're gonna keep going.
So then, that was our investment property. That was our real estate journey of our first real estate property. We're still trying to get somebody in there now.
It's still vacant right now. Yeah,
still vacant now. And so our second real estate property would be our primary home that we purchased. And then we just purchased another investment property in St. Louis now. You might be like, oh, you guys went from Dallas to St. Louis? Like, yes. I mean, because we're at a point that we do want to continue to grow. We're not letting this one thing affect us to say, like, all tenants will be this way. And we're going to continue to invest in other homes. Now, the reason that I also was hesitant about investment properties, because when you break it down of like the income you get, so say you get, I don't know, $500 after mortgage and everything is paid.
Like cash flow, yeah.
Cash flow. If you're not buying it outright, right, whatever the case may be, say you get $500. My thing was, is that worth it with other things out here? Like we have courses, we have other things that we can do that we can get that same amount of money way quicker than waiting a month.
Yeah.
Right.
These digital products got you spoiled.
Right. Digital products.
But even when you do the consultations, you make more than $500, or you do one-on-ones, or you do whatever it may be. But the difference is that this is something that you could pass on to your kids. I can't pass on the digital product to my kids.
So that's what most people say.
I can't pass on my Instagram profile to my kids. I can't pass on my one-on-one consultations with my kids. I can't pass my group consultations off to my kids. But I can pass down rental properties that I have in my trust in my estate down to my kids. And I can pay them forever.
Right. So in the long run, a home with the equity and everything, digital courses may not be forever, but like you said, your home, a house is technically forever. I mean, God willing, a house is technically forever, right? Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the learning of it for me. And still sometimes I'm like,
is it worth it?
Is it worth it? You know what I mean? Is it worth it? I mean, we have, like I said, we're doing this property in St. Louis now, and that is one. We hope to have more of them there. It's just a good market, and so that's why we're there. But
a lot cheaper than Dallas.
See. Yeah, it's cheaper than Dallas. But we shall see. But I think we said it to say, like, this is our real estate journey, and it has not scared us away. Would it have scared you? Maybe. You
got to think about that when you do something like this. Like, will this scare you away hearing this story? But also... Right.
I mean, I had said remember I said something like, if this house sits one more month, you need to look into selling it. Mm-hmm. I was like, if this thing sits one more month, we're selling this thing. I'm telling you right now, because the value has gone up. You know how homes have gone up in Dallas and just in different areas. So we would get our money back plus a lot more. So I'm
you got big taxes on that money.
Yeah, because if you sell within 2 years, what is it?
I think it's 2 years.
2 years or something.
But you're gonna have to pay taxes. Uncle Sam will cover his
regardless.
Money.
That's true.
Unless you roll it into like another property or something like that. But yeah, But again, this is something that we could, $500 from one property and is not life changing, but six properties maybe, or 10 properties maybe. So that's kind of like the thought around, and it's like, if you can't weather the storm right now, then you probably shouldn't be in real estate. You probably shouldn't be and most people, you think about real estate, it's like, you're not getting rich from real estate. Most people are parking their money. Most rich people are parking their money in real estate, or they're reinvesting their money into real estate to continue to either have tax shelters, depreciation, get benefits from it, so that it doesn't impact them immediately. So I don't plan on getting rich from real estate, but you can be rich and reinvest your money into real estate.
Right. So that has been our journey. Not the most glamorous, but we speak about it because all businesses, not everything is always dandy in business, and so with real estate and things like that. And
I'm still excited about it.
Yeah, you're excited about it. I go with it.
Yeah, like, whatever.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, it is what it is. I understand, like you said, the parking of the money, the investing, the equity that goes into a home. I understand those logistics of it now, so I'm a bit more open to it now, but I don't know if that I'm ever excited about it besides our primary home.
Yeah. I literally just text the property manager right now, and I was like, listen, I need you to go check up into that property, make sure we're good.
Make sure that it remains good, because, and that's something that we look for when we're looking for property managers. Like, in the process of you looking for someone, how often is our home checked up on?
Yeah.
Because we don't want it just sitting there because of what has happened in the past, right? So
you got to think about and that's the thing. We don't want to just give you guys a negative side, but we got to give you our negative side. So you don't just think it's all glitz and glamour.
That's our experience, yeah.
But then don't let people talk you out of it too. Like, we're still sitting here telling you, like, we're still doing it. We're still going for more.
Yeah.
If we would have listened to that person that said, oh man, that's what happened in your first property, I would have been out of it. Then we wouldn't be where we are today listening to other people. So don't let other people take you out from kind of achieving your goals and getting to where you want to be.
People would have been out of everything. A lot of people can't weather a lot of things. So
yeah. So think about that before you start anything, but also think about the downside. Like, can you weather that storm if it does happen?
Yes. So thank you for joining us.
Another episode.
Make sure that you are, like we said at the beginning,
drop a review, please.
Drop a review. Okay, well, I guess that was
stop playing, man.
Drop a review, watching us on YouTube, subscribing. If there's more topics that you guys want us to know, I guess you can shoot us a DM or email or something. But we will continue this. So thank you so much.
Appreciate you guys being here. Keep hustling. This episode was brought to you by cleaningbusinessuniversity.com. Again, cleaningbusinessuniversity.com. If you're interested in starting and scaling a six-figure cleaning business without cleaning houses. The other day we were sitting down chilling. We had 7 cleanings, about $1,500 in revenue, doing absolutely nothing.
Not doing absolutely nothing.
I mean, not anything for that business.
We've worked hard to get to this level,
but not anything for that business for the day. So again, cleaningbusinessuniversity.com. Appreciate you guys being here.
Yes, thank you.
Peace.
Over and out.
This has been an episode of the Hartzog Hustle Podcast. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite listening platform. And follow Anthony and Janilka on Instagram at The Hartrimony. That's TheHartrimony. Keep hustling, baby. Keep hustling, baby.
Get that money. Get that money.